Questions and comments? The honourable member for Regina Louvain.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I had a chance to speak to this amendment and this motion before, but my question would be for my colleague is, I remember in university I wrote a paper that said, has the Liberal government lost the legitimacy to govern? So have they lost the trust of the Canadians across the country? And that was during the ad scam, which I would think, and I'll ask my colleague, how would the ad scam scandal that took down the Chrétien-Martin corrupt Liberal government compare? How does the Green Slush Fund scandal compare to the ad scam in the size and the amount, the dollar amount? And obviously that was a lot of focus in Quebec, and this slush fund scandal is focused across the country. But how much bigger is it than the ad scam scandal that took down the Chrétien-Martin government?
The honourable member for Edmonton West.
Thank you to my colleague from Regina Louvain for that. Ad scam, in the grand scheme of things, is peanuts compared to this. $400 million through the Green Slush Fund, funneled from Liberal insiders to Liberal insiders. We have clear rules actually stating before the money can go, people have to sign off the contribution agreement that the Minister of Industry has to be informed when there's a conflict within 1 month. So it's right there in writing in the contribution agreement. We also heard from a whistleblower who said, yes, I did come forward, I did make the minister aware of this scandal, of these conflicts, and no action done. Ad scam was horrible. It brought down the previous Liberal government. This should bring down this government.
Commentaire, questions and comments. The honourable for King Vaughan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I want to thank my honourable colleague for a wonderful speech. He's even educated me this evening. But I have a question for him. Maybe he could explain to Canadians watching tonight. As I speak to my constituents, they are appalled by what is happening and why this government won't release the documents, because they feel that as shareholders of this country, they deserve answers. Could he please explain to them that they need to make sure that when we have the next election, they vote for the Conservative Party of Canada?
The honourable member for Edmonton West.
Tough but fair question, yes. I think just having a member like we have representing King Vaughan would be enough to convince them to vote for the Conservatives. But this is an important issue. We saw out of ad scam, we had new transparency laws and the Accountability Act brought in by former Prime Minister Stephen Harper. I think what we're going to see that's going to come out, the good that's going to come out of these scandals, is going to be a demand and action from the future Conservative Party and government to ensure that we do have transparency and, just as important, accountability, so that Canadians know that their hard-earned tax dollars are going to what Canadians want, and not corporate welfare, not Liberal insiders, but to Canadians.
Questions and comments? The honourable member for Regina Louvain.
Thank you very much. Well, my colleague gave a wonderful answer to the question I gave him a few minutes ago. I had a follow-up question because his answer actually triggered something. Was how many ministers of innovation and science, how many innovation ministers does he think might be complicit in this scandal? Because there's been several from the current one, and I'm wondering how many innovation ministers, and one left, I think, possibly because of the scandal, and he was still deeply involved. But how many do you think are involved in this? And does it go back all the way to 2015? I wonder if my colleague had an answer for that question.
The honourable member for Edmonton West.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. And I appreciate the opportunity to respond to my friend from Regina Louvain, because this is probably the most I've spoken to him in a while. I think the issues are deep. The STDC is not a new program. It's been around for a couple decades. Up until this government took over, the Auditor General had given it a clean bill of health for the programs and for its investments. It's only since this government has taken over. The Auditor General very clearly stated in her report that this falls at the feet of the current industry minister. It's very clear from the documentations that we've seen with the contribution agreements, he had to have been told that there were conflicts, and he purposely ignored it because it was benefiting Liberal insiders, or he refused to ask if there are issues. We had a whistleblower made it very clear that the current minister was aware these issues were brought forward. We've also seen the previous minister, Navdeep Bains, hand-selected, went around the application process to hand-pick the CEO who was later convicted of violating conflict of interest rules, this same person who the Privy Council is now protecting by refusing to turn over the documents. So it's very clear the rot is deep, and I think this is why the government is refusing to hand over the documents.
Very good point.
People anxious to ask questions. Questions and comments. The honourable member for Bow River.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And to my honourable colleague, as he went through details and details, I think we've often mentioned the close to between 300 and 400 million that has been discovered at this point. But there's a lot more information. There was only 180 some that were looked at, and there is a lot more in that documentation. And that's another reason why we need the full disclosure, because this is not all of it. There is much more. And as my colleague has established with his speech, we have just seen the tip of the iceberg. To my colleague, what does he believe why we need to look at more?
The honourable member for Edmonton West.
I think thanks to my colleague from Bow River, we need to look at more so we can clear the air, so we can find out and get to the bottom of just how much taxpayers' money has gone to insiders, how much taxpayers' money has gone to ineligible companies. It's actually right in, again, the contribution agreement. I think, top of my head, I think it's page 29 if the Liberals want to look it up. But STDC, an industry, has an obligation to go after funds that were given out but were not eligible. We've asked repeatedly, has this government done that, as is required in the contribution agreement? And the answer repeatedly is they completely derail and go into a different topic. They refuse to answer. It's right in the contribution agreement. STDC has an obligation to recover taxpayers' money and return it. I think the current government is protecting their insiders so they don't have to pay back what has been stolen from taxpayers.